Hello and blessings to all of God's people. Thanks for joining me again here on Through the Looking Glass. On this channel, we endeavor to examine all of the matters that matter through the trifold lens of truth, reason, and scripture. I'm your host, Lamuel Muniz Jackson. Brother Lam is cool with me. Thanks for joining me again. All right, so what do we have on tap for you today? Well, I know that over the last several years, ever since the whole trans, if you will, movement was thrust upon us, one of the things that we've had to deal with increasingly, particularly on the collegiate level, is men who are going through some sort of gender dysphoria, seeking to identify as women and being placed in women's sports. It has been a huge issue especially for the young women who have, for many years, trained really hard, committed themselves to being the best athlete in their perspective sport and their divisions and so forth, only to have someone who is not and never will be a biological female come in and basically take all of their hard-earned recognition and placement and records and so forth, all of that just wiped away. These are men in women's sports. Now, if you are someone who, like over the last, I just say, I don't know, 7 to 10 years that we've been even hearing this different nomenclature about men, this whole trans thing. Trans, in this regard, trans simply means fake. Because honestly, there's no way ever, not now, not then, not ever going to be, there's no way ever that a man can become a biological woman. A biological man that's not the universe that we live in. Conversely, a woman, female, who's born a female cannot ever, I don't care what you do, how many hormones you take, how many times you hit the gym, you will never, ever be a man, period. But we've gotten into this whole thing of accommodating people. Look, we are all responsible for the life that we live. At the end of the day, we're all going to be judged by the life that we live, the decisions we made, whether or not we bent the knee to our Creator and lived according to His laws and so forth. You, whoever you are out there, if you choose to live your life identifying as something that you are not, look, I don't recommend it. But if you're going to do that, you go right ahead. All right. If that's where you are, and this is what you believe identifies you best as a human being, you know what? Do your thing. I can't convince you. It's not even my job. But what you cannot, will not do, is force me or anyone else who is a free-thinking human being to share in your delusion by calling you what you are clearly not. And so, we haven't drawn the line there. And because, especially in this last administration, because we never drew the line, it's like, no, we're not going to do this. Well, we put female athletes in danger. We rob them of just any number of opportunities and credit for wins, and their in many cases their entire collegiate and Olympic efforts, if you will, were stolen, snatched right up from under them. Okay, but then there's also the added addition, of course, that there are males in the locker room. These are men again, and we have become so poisoned. It's funny how they use this term woke, but you are asleep at the wheel in the worst way when you cannot, for the sake of your daughters, for your sisters, you can't say, okay, whoa, okay, wait a minute. I'm all good for everyone living the way they want to live if that's what they want to do. But what I'm not willing to do is put my daughter or my sister or my niece, I'm not willing to put them in any sort of compromised position, because the fact of the matter is what I may say coming out my mouth is like, oh, trans women are women. You know what? There's no truth to that. All right. Trans women, there is no such thing as trans women. And I'm gonna be a buck. I'm gonna keep it 1,000 with you. One of the problems that we've had here in this country and abroad, when liberals come out with a new term or new terminology that they want to put out into the ether. And first of all, they already have the media, so all they have to do is get a few talking heads to start talking and using the terms. Now, usually that's going to happen first in university settings and whatnot, because everything that's crazy is hatched first from a liberal university. That's what it is. So then what happens is, you'll start to hear certain people use the terminology, and then all of a sudden, it makes its way into the conscious of America. No, nobody just stops to say, well, what do you mean by that? Because again, trans, the whole idea is that you go from one thing into another, but that's not true. And any reasoned person understands that that's not true. You can cosmetically do whatever you want to do. Snip this, cut that, tear it up, blah 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 blah. We switch it around, da 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 da. All that's futile. At the end of the day, it may give you a certain cosmetic makeover in terms of your appearance and so forth. Wigs, da 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 da, whatever. Again, if that's what you want to do with your life, sir, you go right ahead. But I'm not about to relate to you as a lady. That's just not going to happen. Trust and believe. Now, back to the point though, we started using this term, trans. What? All of a sudden, it was like trans. It almost like came out of nowhere. But then, I remember a time, and it's funny because this comes from the left, but I remember a time not very long ago. Basically, we went from in the 90s and into the early 2000s, everyone knew what a liberal was. And then all of a sudden, we started hearing people use the term progressive. Oh, he's a progressive. Progressive. No, what does he believe in? Abortion, gay marriage, taxing the rich and redistributing. All those are okay. That's a liberal. I'm sorry. When did liberals become? What is this again? Progressive. That's interesting. Progressive. Wow. Because progressive, at its core, you find progress, which means that you are actually making progress. But everything that they come up with is actually regressive. How to make that make sense? They are very good at presenting the exact opposite of that in which they are. And again, when you have the media here, not just in this country, but in a lot of countries, they're so bent over backwards for the left, because many of them, most of them, in fact, are the left. We have very little journalism left in this country. What we have are media activists who work for, various networks. And the beautiful thing about where we are right now in terms of history is that now that we have the internet and all these other platforms, and I'll also just get a plug in for radio. Conservative radio held the line for a long time until we started getting opportunities to come on and with new podcasts like various people who are out there. Some of them are conservative, some of them are still finding their place, some of them they're all over the place. But the fact is, we have some key voices now whose podcast numbers dwarf any CBS, ABC, or NBC newscast. That is a leveling of the field, and I love it. I love where we are because we're not enslaved to the legacy media for information. So back to the issue, President Trump just recently signed an executive order banning all transgender athletes from women's sports. Wonderful. But of course, not everybody's happy about it. But I want to just show you a little bit from the signing of the executive order, and I want you to take notice. You know what? I'm gonna let it roll, and I'm gonna ask you whether or not you took notice of the same thing that I took notice of, because he really doesn't get enough credit oftentimes for the things that he does. Hold on. Here we go. Check it out.
Because this is a big one, right? Oh, I think we have a 10. We have a 10.
God bless you, Mr. President.
With this executive order, the war on women's sports is over.
With this executive order, the war on women's sports is over. And from that clip, just a small clip, I just wanted to show you there at the signing, all of them, all those young, beautiful faces who so appreciated the fact that now they don't have to worry about being put in compromised positions. They don't have to compete in a situation where the deck is just been reshuffled against them. It's one of those situations here where, in terms of the folks who were so upset about this, they're the very same folks who, at the same time, want to preach about, following the science of, you name it, the creation of the world, climate change, yada, 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 a whole plethora of things. When they want to have their way, they will say, you got to follow the science. But the most obvious of things, they're so willing to overlook science, overlook the fact of biology. It's really ridiculous. One of the other things that has happened recently in the news is, of course, unless you've been hiding under a rock, you understand that the DOGE, the USAID, which is a federal agency. You could probably tell me, if I were to ask a number of different federal agencies that are all constantly have been in the news over the last several decades or whatever, but USAID would not be one of them that would come off the top of the brain. It wouldn't, even though a number of us kind of knew of it. We just didn't know much about it. Man, what we didn't know is crazy. Okay, all right, so there we go. Now, this article it was written by Selwyn Duke, who is a reporter there at the New American. All right. I'm just going to give you a couple of numbers. All right. So paid $20 million to this was not the article, by the way. These are just excerpts that I've taken from the article. If you want to read the entire article, go over to the New American and just do a search. This will come up and you can read the entire article. But the numbers was really what I wanted to get out there. The numbers of in terms of the payments and what those payments are for. 20 million to the hard left Rockefeller philanthropy philanthropy advisors. All right. So what is that? It's a 501c3. It manages at least 200 million in annual fund disbursements. A lot of that to left-wing causes. Also, which is kind of funny that I found it also funds other folks. Like it says it's funded Bill Kristol, a wealthy man whose raison d'etre, which basically means there's reason for living or whatever, since 2016, has been to destroy Trump. Okay, so Bill Kristol, he's a classic neocon. He's not someone who has the kind of sway that he used to. But I remember, and many of you will probably remember Bill Kristol as a frequent guest, conservative guest on a lot of the Sunday talk shows. He probably still hits the circuit. I don't really watch much of the, like I said, legacy media offerings anymore because I understand it for the most part, it's slanted propaganda. However, I remember Bill as far back as when the McLaughlin group would come on. He would be one of the rotating commentators there. And he's a diehard neocon, and he's certainly not someone who you would find in MAGA country, if you will. No, he's a rhino. Anyway, so it also funded organizations pushing leftist ideologies such as BLM, DEI, illegal immigration, and of course the alphabet soup crowd, LGBTQ. They are all there as well. It's also the fund. I found this particularly disturbing. It says the fund is especially notable for its commitment to destroying Israel. In the years since the October 7th attack on Israel, USAID sent around $420 million to the Gazans and West Bankians. Okay, so now, just that sentence would make one, if you don't examine it, it would make one simply believes, okay, well, there's been war there in Gaza. We've all seen the destruction, and so yes, this is all humanitarian. What's wrong with sending in humanitarian effort and aid to help folks there? And on the surface, there's nothing, from a humanitarian point of view, there is nothing wrong with that. Okay. The fact of the matter is, though, that Gaza and, at least Gaza, I'm not quite sure what's going on there in the West Bank, but the fact of the matter is the folks there, the Palestinian, if you will, folks there, voted to have Hamas as their leadership. So when we're sending this money, all right, over to the Gazans, and he's being very politically correct here, because what you have to do is this is our government sending foreign aid in the millions over. How is that being distributed to the people who receives the money? All right, first of all, and how is that then administered in such a way to help these these folks who are displaced and whose homes are now in ruin and so forth? Who is in charge of administering this money? Well, the folks who are in power, i.e. the folks who are in the administration. What is their administration? In other words, what is their government? Who makes up their government? It is Hamas. Okay, so we are in a sense sending 400. And I'm not exactly. And I'll just back off a little bit on the West Bank because I'm not exactly sure if that's a different thing. Probably not. I'm thinking it is all the same. But this is money that's going to Hamas, and it is Hamas that carried out the killings there in Israel. It was Hamas that was responsible for planning it, for carrying it out. It is Hamas that has been holding the hostages. This is crazy, and yet we are spending this kind of money. And it says again, we're talking about $420 million since then, since the attacks. $420 million going to the same group, the same organization that carried out the murders. Unbelievable. Paid basically $2 million to Association Lambda. Okay, so what does that Lambda Association there mean? Or what do they do? This money was to strengthen transgender organizations in Guatemala. $2 million to strengthen transgender organizations in Guatemala. I don't see the American interest in that. $1.5 million to advance LGBTQ diversity in Serbia. How that is of any interest to our national interest, I have no idea, and of course, no reasonable person would as well. Canceled $237 million in contracts for work in Afghanistan, but still paid $61 million for work that was not performed and $74 million for work with questionable results. But we have a problem with DOGE coming out and giving us these numbers. We have a problem with anyone looking into this kind of waste and abuse. Paid $30 million to study HIV in Africa among sex workers. Okay, is there anything left to know about the HIV virus that we don't already know? And why the petri dish of African sex workers to the tune of $30 million? You have got to be crazy. You sound like you have bumped your head. No. Unbelievable. It says this money seems to have been used for chemically and surgically mutilating mentally ill Africans. This is USAID, okay? And I'm pause right here and just say, listen, the only voices that I see on television, on the net, or even hearing it on radio, whatever, in print, the only people who I have seen that have an issue with any of this, and us, when I say any of this, I mean us finding out about these things, they're all Democrats. Why? Why is there an issue with us knowing about this? Why is it an issue that we have finally somebody in the executive branch who wants to shine a light, not just shine a light on the waste and abuse and the overspending that has gotten us so far in debt as a country, but to also nip it in the bud so that we don't continue rolling down the embankment into self-destruction. And I think it's telling that the only people who are complaining about this are all Democrats, all of them. You wonder why. 2.4 million for electric vehicles for Vietnam. Listen, and Musk is Musk is an electric car man, but this serves us not at all, not one bit, not one bit. Here's some other things. They're smaller numbers, but it just shows you just how much this past administration in particular, I think, just really had their pet projects, and the entire trans thing, they really love that. He paid for a trans care clinic in Vietnam. I don't see a number here for that. Paid $25,000 for a trans opera. In Colombia, trans opera in Colombia. Now we really have to have that, because nothing says, nothing says interest of the American people like a trans opera in Colombia. 32,000 for trans comic books in Peru. Interesting how it'd be really interesting to see what the hero of that particular comic or those comics would look like. Although I have some idea, just none worth talking about. Anyway, $6 million to promote tourism in Egypt. Hey, I would like to go see Egypt, but I don't want to spend $6 million, of my tax-paying, my tax money, to promote somebody else's tourism. I'm sure they can do an adequate job of, promoting tourism in Egypt themselves. So let them do that, okay? Let them do that. $500,000 to expand atheism, in Nepal, because Nepal doesn't already have enough challenges. Wow, yeah. And it goes on and on and on. Here's a good nugget. And of course, a number of you will not be surprised to see any of this. It says it handed out $4.4 billion. That was not a million. That was not with an M. That was a B. $4.4 billion to Haiti in 2010. Much of it under the aegis of the Clinton Foundation when Hillary was Secretary of State. Interesting. But the clarity comes right here. Almost none of the Clinton Foundation money went to the Haitian people. Bill and Hillary Clinton are estimated to have a net worth around $120 million. So here's my question. If it handed over in 2010 upwards of $4.4 billion, and I don't know back then in 2010 if there was some sort of natural disaster, if there was revolution, there's always something, interesting going on in Haiti, but maybe this was being done at a time when, there was, a particular or an acute happening, something really devastating was happening to the people. I don't know. I haven't actually gone back, but I can do that. Well, either way, the issue here is that $4.4 billion and almost none of the Clinton Foundation money, a lot of this money was given to Haiti through the Clinton Foundation. Not the entire $4.4 billion, but a lot of it was done through the Clinton Foundation. And yet of that money that went through the Clinton Foundation, nobody in Haiti saw. I wonder where that money went. Yeah. All of this was found within the first 4 to 5 hours of their audit. All of this in just not even half a day, okay, maybe a half a day, work schedule, 4 to 5 hours, and this is what they've come up with, and the protests are crazy. All right, so here's what's going on, and I'm going to bring this up because I really just I'm saddened that we are at the point where we have these same demagogues come out and they speak their speech, they engage in their whatever this is, and without question, without thinking, without fully examining what's really going on. Just so many of our people here in the United States who have been who've been loyal, just blindly loyal to the Democratic Party, even when these things are coming to light, that we as a tax-paying populace, it doesn't matter if you're a Democrat, Republican, you name it, we as a citizenry of this country, we've been taken to the cleaners. Our tax dollars have been just basically stolen from us and thrown away. Listen, if we can do all these things, why is it? You heard the money, you heard the numbers I was just giving to you. If we can do all of those things, why can't we help people in North Carolina when a hurricane hits and wipes their whole livelihood away? Our people, American citizens, if we can do all of that, and not only the money that we spent, here at USAID that we didn't spend, we just threw it away, honestly. But other money that we gave to FEMA then turned around and gave to illegal aliens millions of dollars. If we can do all this for and we don't even want to talk about Ukraine and all the billions of dollars we're sending over there. They don't want us looking at these things. If we had that money to do all those things for anybody and everybody else that was on their wish list, why can't we help the folks whose houses were burnt out there in LA and the businesses and so forth? How come we can't fully restore all the folks whose homes and lands were completely destroyed there in Hawaii? How come are these not our people? Are we not supposed to take care of home first? Not if you're a Democrat, apparently. And here we go. I don't even know if I should show you this. I'll do it anyway, just to give you some idea of the just poor and nonsensical, but typical rhetoric coming from the left there. And here's Jasmine Crockett doing her, doing her spill. She's another one of these typical, what I call poverty pimps, because she addresses and speaks directly to a populace who, I praise God, a demographic who is just now really waking up to the bamboozlement of the Democratic Party. And I'll show you a little bit about what I mean by that. I'm gonna just let her do her thing for a little bit here, and this is just typical, and it's sad. I have 3 daughters. I would be sorely disappointed if they turned out anything like her. There you go.
I just want to say thank you. Because every day that we show up in D.C., we show up for you. We know who we work for. We know that we work for the American people. And what we're not going to do is stand around while they pull this bullshit that they trying to pull right now.
Okay. Sorry for the explicative. All right. And then she starts about saying that she knows who she works for. And of course, she's talking about she works for the people. Fact of the matter is, yeah, the president and the Congress also, works for the people. The executive branch has authority to go in and have oversight, direct oversight over all federal agencies. So what she's saying is, she's couching this as if she has an argument that she's defending the people. But what she's doing is she is obstructing the will of the people because, guess what? Donald Trump won the presidential election in a landslide, and he also won the popular vote. He comes in with a mandate only to do that in which he said he was going to do. Part of that is cleaning up waste, fraud, and overspending. But they have a problem with that. They have a problem with the whole idea that anyone would do that. And I think what it is this is their gravy train. The USAID is only the tip. Trust me, it is only the tip of the iceberg. And what we're seeing here in all of this vitriol is an effort to try to squash this before the train really gets down the track. Because again, this is just the beginning. There are things here that are yet to be uncovered in a lot of agencies that I guarantee you will put a lot of these people's career and even freedom in jeopardy. A lot of them will probably, be looking at jail time. That's my own opinion. I think I stand on pretty good grounds by saying what I just said. But here, I'll give you a little bit more if you can stomach it, but here you go.
Go ahead. This is why I'm not going to be able to preach, because I probably won't be able to stop cussing. Take your time.
And you know what? That, I think, sums it up. She's about as real as a $3 bill. So I was talking to you earlier. I was just saying a little bit earlier that thankfully, a number of people within the black community, in particular, that's the demographic I was referring to. They are waking up. They're seeing the jig is up for a lot of them. They've taken the blinders off, and a lot of this stupidity and reveling in someone's, they're reveling in their perpetually aggrieved state. They're waking up instead, and they're seeing what the real deal is. And I was just on X, and listen to this gentleman here. I'm only going to show a snippet of what he had to say, but more and more Americans are waking up. If you want to see the whole thing, you can just check him out on X. His name is Isaiah L. Carter. And finally, what we're seeing is a number of eyes being illuminated, just like this guy. He's not different, dissimilar rather, than a number of other folks who have finally, the light has gone on upstairs, and they see clearly now where they had not been seen clearly before.
They've lied about being the party of the middle class. They've lied about being the party of peace. They've lied about being the party that wants to help poor people. Okay? What the last several weeks have proven to us all is that this is a cadre of criminals and losers and spoiled children of affluent parents who were more concerned about looking good than actually doing good. These are people who were more concerned about looking like they were doing something for the American people than actually doing things for the American people. And that's why I'm so angry. Because this party lied to me while stealing my tax dollars.
Yes.
The Democratic Party lied to us all while they brought in millions of illegal immigrants for their own political purposes for the last 4 years. 20 to 30 million illegal aliens brought in, and now we come to USAID being probably the largest money laundering operation in American history. Congratulations, Dems. You've outdone even Bernie Madoff.
You've outdone even Bernie Madoff. He goes on, he says some other things there that I'm not going to show. But you get the general idea. People are waking up. And, there was there was a young lady. Same thing. I'm not going to show any of the things that she had to say because, goodness gracious, we've lost a lot of people, well-meaning folks, and everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a platform now, with social media. But we really have got to get back to a place where we have discourse that isn't constantly filled with F-bombs and whatnot every 4 to 5 words. It's just kind of crazy. But there we go. That is something that is completely the product of our education system over the last several decades, over the last 50 years. It's just gotten progressively worse. She did make a very good case in terms of the analogy, and what she was saying basically was, okay, so you own a bank, and someone, your bank is being robbed. Someone sees your bank being robbed, and then they get the evidence. Maybe they film it or whatever, but they get the evidence. They able to point to exactly who it was that was robbing your bank, taking all your money out of your bank. And she asked a question. She goes, who do you get upset with? The person who robbed your bank, or the person who comes to tell you, hey, somebody robbed your bank, check it out, I got him on tape. Here he is, this is what he looks like. Yeah, and here's where he put the money. Who do you get upset with? Democrats would have you be upset with Elon Musk and DOGE because they actually are telling you, look, citizen, your tax money is being robbed and has been being robbed from you for God knows how long. Here's who's been doing it. Here's where the money's been going. And the Democrats are telling you, you need to be really, really upset with Elon Musk. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. This is my money. You are constantly taxing me out the wazoo. Congress, especially if it's a Democratic-run Congress, oh my God. Their whole existence is to come up with more ways to separate me from our money in one tax or one regulation or another. And that money they put in the coffers, and then they have little slush funds just like this, USAID, and you're expecting me as a rational human being to get upset because someone actually pulled the curtain back on the crime? You're the ones that are committing the crime. I'm supposed to be mad at him? Come on, man. Y'all gotta be, you sound like you bumped your head for real. But listen, this is the sort of thing that's been going on for a long time. I can't say that it is all Democrats, honestly. It's not as if these things haven't been around. These agencies and other, what do you call those? Not-for-profit organizations. Anyway, NGOs, I was like not-for-profit. I meant NGOs, non-government organizations. So this is where all the money is being, these things are how the money is being, funneled here, funneled there, kickback here, kickback there. I grease your palm, you grease mine. In the way of what? We're talking about campaign contributions, of course. We're talking about free gifts and travel. We're talking about just, kickbacks in other forms, i.e., like the Bidens. I have a cousin who, you will appoint as and such and so within your organization who will get X amount of salary, if you will. And of course, all that money is on paper. It looks legitimate, but it comes back to where it's supposed to come back to. I mean, there are a lot of ideologues, certainly, that are just funding things they want to fund for the destabilization of our country. But, the love of money is the root of all evil. And that's trust and believe that money is coming back in some way, shape, or form. There's no surprise that the money that was supposed to be sent to Haiti through the Clinton Foundation never somehow was accounted for, and the Haitian people never got that money. But Clinton Foundation is doing pretty well for itself, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is. Well, that's all I have for you today, sirs and madams. Listen, I think that there's just some principles that I just want to end with. First of all, we are all created to be that in which we are created to be. It is foolish to rail against God's creation. It is foolish to be not grateful, to be alive, to be a wonderful, miraculous creature with an opportunity every day to commune and have fellowship with the creator of the entire world. And it is folly to thumb your nose up at the living God. Like you can tell the potter what you as the clay should be. It's insane. And yet that's what happens. And it's not going to lead to anything good. People think that this life is short, and that, when you close your eyes and take that last breath, that's it. That's all. Or we have some pie in the sky idea that judgment is, based on what it is that they believe, or based on their standards and, their hopes, and, it's a rolling of the dice that's just not going to work out for them at all. And yet, there are a lot of people who are willing to take that chance. I'm not. I don't suggest that anyone else does. There's a living God. He created all of us to be that in which we are, and he knows best. He knows certainly better than we do. The other things, of course, is that, like I said, money is the root of all evil, just as Scripture says. And where there is, another thing is that where there is much given, there's, much responsibility. So when we're talking about the kind of money, the sums that we are given, that we're giving up in terms of our tax dollars and what the debt that we're taking on as a nation, we really need to be accountable for how that money is spent, where it goes, so forth. We need to be accountable as a citizenry on the people who we put in charge of these things. Now, here's the problem. We elect our local officials, we elect our state officials, we elect our presidents and senators, so forth. But the folks who are the bureaucrats, they're not elected people. And there are a lot of bureaucrats who are running these agencies, who are coming up with regulations and who are talking to our elected officials, in closed forums, who are, they're responsible for coming up with the ideas for regulations and more laws to tax us. So that this game, it's a racket. It is a racket, continues, and they are perpetually enriched. That is the game. We have been given a small glimpse behind the curtain of the game, and those who are most threatened by it are acting out. That's what's going on in terms of the protests we have here in DC, because nobody who wants clarity, nobody who wants transparency, no one who wants the truth about how our government can somehow afford all these millions and billions of dollars for everybody else and not take care of their own people here in our country. They don't want you to see these things, because if you see these things, it is expected that you will begin to ask some very serious, salient, deep probing questions, and it's long past due. So if you find that this kind of content is beneficial and the kind of content that you would like to see more of, if this is a conversation, a national conversation that you would like to take part in, I invite you, please do so. I'm always interested in hearing what other folks have to say about these issues, so long as it is, respectful. Keep it G, and you won't have any issue with Brother Lamb here. It is a conversation, and I invite you to come with me along this journey and see what we can see through the looking glass. Do like the video and subscribe if you're interested in seeing more content. We would appreciate it here. It helps us a lot. Thank you.